Hey, Soraya.
Hi.
I'm on. So do you need me to make you a co-host or do you need me to do anything?
No, we are perfect because now I'm the host.
Oh,
And
cool. Okay,
yeah,
perfect. And we're on YouTube right now, right?
yes, we are.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll just wait till people get here.
Thank you for helping.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Don. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
We somehow made it all the way to Wednesday evening. That's pretty impressive.
It feels like it's been a long week. I was over at Moore's annual meeting and had to run from that over to this.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
It's the time of year, too, when everyone's trying to do everything simultaneously, it seems like.
Yep, it seems like there's something every night.
I'm too old for something every night.
I know. I don't like driving in the dark anymore either.
Right. Yeah, throw rain in the mix and I'm in real trouble.
I know that reflection really messes with my eyes at night. Welcome back, Ricky.
Hi, thanks.
Do you have the baby? Do we get to see him?
He's upstairs with Denver.
Oh.
Can Denver be trusted with a baby at this point?
So far, so good.
Okay. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Are you getting much sleep?
Nope.
It gets better when they turn like 3.
It's
Well,
honest.
As your full service mayor, Ricky, I am available at all times for babysitting.
Excellent. Excellent.
You want to come care for a sick 6-year-old?
Sure.
Okay.
We have a 6-year-old too. I don't worst cold
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, it's the worst cold.
Worst cold. So
That
much
cough.
coughing. Yes, the coughing right in
Oh,
the chest.
yes.
That's no fun.
No, he got to go back today and he only made it till 10:30. And then he was like, I just don't feel like myself. It's like, so my husband picked him up and brought him home.
But don't worry, Ricky, it totally gets better.
It gets better.
Buying it.
It really gets better.
Mhm.
Wow, that was interesting coming into your guys' conversation, not seeing myself, wondering what was going on in Zoom land, raising my hand, unraising my hand, like, am I here? Am I not here? What's happening?
You're here, Christine.
You've made it to Wednesday, just like the rest of us. Although
Yeah.
it feels like a long week.
Hump day.
Mhm.
How is everyone?
Good, thanks.
Good.
How are you?
Not too bad. It's been a big day, big couple days, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems to be, work comes in waves, right? So now the big wave is, hey, the holidays are coming. How much work can we get done before we all depart and take a little break? So
The
away
kids
we
have
go.
like 2 full weeks off of school this year. It's a long break.
Wow. You have any plans?
Maybe some sleep. Did we get any emails that anybody's going to be missing tonight?
Laura's gonna miss and Paul. That's all I heard from. Hi, Jerry, by the way. Maybe we'll give it a minute. Oh, Riley just emailed us. He's having trouble with his laptop, but he'll be on in a minute.
Because we're on Zoom, I get to take my hearing aids out so my glasses fit right. Because I can't read anything without my, I used to be the youngest guy at all this stuff.
I think you still are.
Oh, well, thank you.
Right now you are.
As long as you feel like the youngest.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Well, yeah, once the hearing aids come out, I do sort of I feel a little unburdened. Yeah. Too much time around a printing press.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We just actually spent the weekend, this last weekend, installing one of those sound bars to our television because Marco, as a musician, has certain tones. We just had his hearing test and he has certain tones that he can't hear. And our television, it hits right in that zone. So we had to look for a bar that accentuated the treble and helped provide clarity for his hearing. We're not into assistance yet, but pretty darn close.
As somebody who has a parent that really needs a hearing aid and will get one, I appreciate those that are willing to just say yes.
Yeah, having lived with that, I buckled pretty early.
Good call. So how many people do we need for a quorum?
You need 6.
We've got
You have 4. When Riley gets here, you'll have 5.
So we can go through actions
Yeah.
and ratify later.
Okay.
okay. So do you want to pull up the
Mhm.
okay.
1 second. Oh, where is it?
For one of our future meetings, we had a really good presentation this week from Jeff Smith of WGM regarding the Larchmont project. That might be good to have him come present.
Cool. I'll write that down.
Great. Do we want to move on to the land acknowledgement? I thought Riley was going to do that, but or Emily, were you going to do it? Okay.
No, I wasn't planning to.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start. We, as members of the housing system in Missoula, acknowledge that we are in the homelands of the Salish and Kalispel people. Today, we offer our respect for their history and culture and their ancient and continuing presence in this landscape, and for the path they have shown us in caring for this place for the generations to come. We recognize the ways in which the system of government have contributed to the disconnection of Indigenous peoples from the lands and their families, culture, and heritage. It is our responsibility as individuals and as a collective to acknowledge the white supremacist culture underlying our practices and to be accountable to the demanding respect for tribal sovereignty and Indigenous cultures and the needs and the perspective of Indigenous people. As the committee, we continue to acknowledge with deep gratitude this land. May we also move towards action to redistribute power and resources to communities directly harmed by historical and current practices of colonization, and to embrace conversations and behavior that lead to structural changes. Great. We want to go to the next slide and we'll call to order and do a roll call. I'm Katie Carlson, the chair. I go by Katie, she, her, and I represent the real estate area. I'll call in John.
Thanks. I'm John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula. I am he, him, and happy to see you all.
Do you just want to call in the next person?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and call me John. Christine.
I am Christine Littig, and I am a community appointed position through the county commissioners. I use she, her pronouns. Christine Littig, pardon me. And Jerry, if you're on audio, why don't you go next? We can't hear you, Jerry.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm Jerry Steffarm, and I am on the committee through appointment from John, the mayor, and I use she and her.
Thanks. Heidi, do you want to go next?
I'm Heidi West. I'm the city council liaison, and I can't see everybody because the screen share. So let's see who hasn't gone yet. Aubrey, I'll call on you.
Hi, yeah, I'm Aubrey, she, her, hers. I'm the new Affordable Housing Trust Fund Coordinator for the city, so really excited to be here.
Cool.
Has Ricky gone yet?
Hi, I'm Ricky Henderson. I work for the city of Missoula as the housing programs manager. And I think that Emily, pass it over to you.
I am Emily Harris Shears. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Affordable Housing Trust Fund no, what's my role? I'm the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Administrator. Sorry, Aubrey, I tried to steal your job for a second. Soraya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Soraya. I'm the admin covering temporarily.
Thanks. And Riley is here. Riley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Riley Jacobson, he, his pronouns, and my role on the committee is co-chair, and I represent the housing nonprofit sector.
Great. So it looks like we have a quorum. Is that right, Emily? Great.
Yep.
Okay. Why don't we move on to reviewing norms? Great. It's respect for different perspectives, step up, step back. We're hoping to have as much conversation as possible. Being present, strength-based, and respect privacy of others. So everybody else can see them all on the screen. Any questions or comments or anything anyone wants to add? Great, thank you. And then register to join the webinar and the agenda and related documents. Those are the web addresses. Raising your hand for public comment. And then if people call in, we'll be able to see that too, right, Emily? They'll be able to, we would just get the message and okay.
Yeah, if someone calls in, they'll still show up as an attendee.
Okay.
And then if someone's watching on YouTube, they can either join this way if they want to provide comment or send it to us.
Okay, great. Right, then moving on to approval of meeting minutes. Oh, sorry, goals for the, what was the next slide? Was it the meeting minutes or were we?
No, I just jumped ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then moving on, do we have a slide for the approval of meeting minutes for November? Okay. Did everybody get the minutes or see them online? Okay. And if so, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the November minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jerry, was that? Okay, it's Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on the minutes? If none, all those in favor say aye.
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 And
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay. Great, minutes approved. Okay, public comment for non-agenda items. See any? I don't see any. Emily, am I missing anybody with a hand raised or anything? Okay.
No, we don't have any attendees right now.
Okay, great. So then moving on to financial reports.
We don't have a financial report tonight. We may have one really soon, but we don't have one yet.
Okay, informational items. Was that the next slide?
No, I don't have a slide for that.
Okay. Okay, so then moving on to action items.
So Katie, sorry to interrupt. I think the informational item is about the discussion of your next probably 6 months.
Oh, great. Okay.
But I didn't make a slide for it.
That's okay. We had kind of had a talk about in just the planning that we should probably keep scheduling the meetings for at least monthly for the next 6 months. And then evaluate, the 2 weeks before, if there is not enough to put on the agenda, that we could cancel it. But does anybody have any thoughts about, would you rather schedule out and know that there's some months that there isn't a meeting, or just keep them on schedule?
I think keeping them on schedule. Oh, I apologize. I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, go ahead.
Think keeping them on schedule is a good choice, and would like to promote us using the time to continue to educate ourselves on policies, procedures, regulations, organizations within Missoula around housing, that perhaps each one of us come to this committee with different backgrounds and education that would help us be better going forward.
Does anybody have any other thoughts? Like, is there anybody who would rather not have them scheduled regularly? Okay. Okay, so Emily, why don't we just keep them on scheduled as we were planning? And then we can always reevaluate 6 months in and see if going forward, if we should maybe cancel a couple, especially over the summer or something like that. Okay. All right, so then moving on to action items, the allocation plan, which is the bulk of our meeting tonight. Oh, go ahead, Emily. Oh,
sorry. We didn't put it on the agenda because it just got finalized, but I thought we could share an update about membership too.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Is that okay if I do it?
Yeah.
So just wanted to share that Misty Brown has stepped down. Her role has changed. And so some of her goals and priorities are just shifting a little bit. And so, John, you can also talk about this if you'd prefer.
You go right ahead, Emily.
They're your appointments, but Misty represented housing and a housing nonprofit. And so John, the mayor, decided to promote Riley to that role, up from the alternate role. And then we've extended an offer, or the mayor has extended an appointment to another candidate who is in the initial pool of applicants. And we're just waiting to hear from them. And I just wanted to name too that we decided to go this way because we just went through a pretty rigorous application process in the spring. And we had a really deep pool of qualified and talented and exciting candidates to pick from. And so I'm going to look at our bylaws and potentially make a recommendation that we change them to say that if a vacancy occurs within 6 months or so of the, or within the year of their appointment, that then we would go from the pool that was in the original recruitment. So just wanted to provide an update on that. And also congratulations to Riley. We're really happy that you're moving up and staying in the committee. And thanks, Marianne, for partnering with me on that.
My pleasure. It's a fairly complex construct, but we got through it. My practice in other boards and commissions when I have appointments is I use the same technique. If I've got a candidate pool and qualified candidates, we keep those folks on file, and always happy to go back to that pool and find those volunteers. And I'm grateful that folks want to volunteer to serve.
Thank you, and congrats, Riley. Okay, anything else under that? Okay, moving on to the allocation plan.
All right, well, that is me again. So we're looking at draft of the allocation plan tonight. And the goals for tonight's meeting are to review the feedback and public comment that we received, finalize the draft plan, and then as it's outlined in our policies and procedures, we'll recommend the draft to Mayor Engen for approval. So that's kind of what we have in front of us tonight. And the really great thing is we have a lot of time. This is our main item. So time for discussion and really dig into it a little bit. So I just wanted to highlight what we received from committee recommendations and comments. So we received a comment from Riley about, Riley, you might want to summarize this better than I can, but essentially not fully awarding everything to construction or preservation, and making sure that if there's a need to move money through activities, that we still can do that to consumer housing services as well. So I changed the language of that contingency to staff will strive to award the full balance allocated for each round and should move unawarded funds to the funding activities that have deficits in available award and viable or high scoring projects. So that will just give me and the team and the scoring committee a little bit more flexibility in terms of what's actually applied for. And the purpose of this too is so that we don't leave money on the table if there's something viable in another activity. And then Christine provided some comment on this allowing for fluidity between the allocation amounts for new construction and preservation, and the main, and I changed the language of this contingency altogether based on another comment Christine shared. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to share the edit with you. But really asking about the flexibility, if the flexibility shifts the community representation and intention to the scoring committee, asking where the resident voice has impact, and then also if contingencies can be rewritten. So I'll just highlight that, those answers. So, at a certain point, the work is of the scoring committee to take both the allocation plan and understand the goals and read the applications and make those recommendations based on what they have. And then also where resident voice comes in is really in the process of setting the allocation plan, and hopefully in other spaces as well. And then I think provider voice also comes in when we do the pre-applications and the technical assistance, and then the review of how the round went and make changes and strengthen from their feedback. And then, yes, contingencies can be rewritten. They're rewritten during each annual allocation plan. So you'll set new contingencies next year. And I rewrote, I'm going to go to another screen. Do I have to change, or can you still see my screen?
We
We can
can.
see it.
Okay, thanks. So I rewrote the contingency, it's number 2, to consider the allocation amounts for new construction and preservation to be fluid in order to reflect the priority of creating and preserving affordable stock, and then trust the scoring committee to determine priority between construction and preservation depending on the application strength. So Christine, I know we were just emailing about this morning, so I want to open it up to you and others if there's additional changes for that. And Katie, I see Christine's hand. Do you want to?
Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I was reading. Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
Okay, Emily, I appreciate the effort that you gave to rewriting that section, and I do like how you pulled it together. So thank you very much. I'm comfortable with how it reads.
Well, thank you. Okay, so then the next, I want to make sure people have time to read this. We just did this morning, so I apologize for you not seeing it yet. And then the, and we can go back to that as well. But, and then we received, we posted the draft plan on Engage Missoula from November 22nd to the 30th. And we shared it with colleagues, our nonprofit partners, developers. I shared it at the League of Women Voters event that it was upcoming in the next few days. And then we also shared it on the city's Facebook page to promote opportunities for public comment. And we did receive one public comment, which is recommending direct cash relief for renters. And that's the only comment that we received. And then just want to highlight, I have been tinkering in the allocation plan as I've thought of things and talked to members and things like that. So I just want to name the substantial changes that are proposed, which is the scoring criteria for both competitive rounds. My colleagues and I are pretty rapidly finishing the unified application work, which will go out just in a few weeks, actually. So we decided, based on feedback from the innovation round, to change the bonus scoring to a section that only the staff will score, because we know that there's some insight that we have that maybe not the entire scoring committee has around the plans, and also what is preventing displacement versus a project that will naturally have displacement and needs to have a plan for that. That's a different kind of thing. So we decided to move that to a staff scoring. And what we'll do is we will get together and deliberate and then give it one score. We also changed the scoring for the bonus to just be an all or nothing. So if the application is, scores in the category of innovation, for example, they'll get 15 points. And if they don't, they'll get 0. So it's not going to be a range this time. And then we also elevated the points and gave them a little bit more weight in the bonus to help incent some of these projects that help us meet our goals in the housing policy. And then in the contingencies, we changed the contingency that outlines the redirection of fund balances by activity, which is what I read of staff will strive to award the full balance. And then we also I added a contingency outlining a process for directing new funds that we receive mid-year or that aren't included in the allocation plan. And just based on your discussions and your priority, I suggested that we redirect it to new construction. But I just put it there so that you all could discuss that. And I also want to share that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund did receive our first private donation this week. So we're very excited about that. We received $1,000 from Dory Galels, who was a candidate in Ward 3, and she's sharing her unspent campaign funds with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and we're really appreciative and excited for that. So that actually prompted this contingency. So that's also very helpful. So those are the changes and what I've done in the allocation plan that you may not have seen. So I just wanted to, for full transparency, highlight those. So now I'll open it up. Actually, I'm going to give a prompting question. So the last time we met, we didn't have the full rationales built out, and we didn't have the full priorities. So I just want to open with a question of how does this look to members? Does this meet your expectations around communicating your priorities? And we can start there.
Jerry, go ahead.
I really like how the fluidity is in there, where we can switch it from if we have money left over, it can flow forward or be re-looked at based on the applications that are sitting there.
I agree.
But like number 4, the full balance is not applied for. It should be held for the next program year.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I'm with Jerry. I think the flexibility here is important. And I don't think we miss out on opportunities. And I think the document is thoughtful and covers all anticipated opportunities. I guarantee you we will have a humdinger thrown at us that we'll need to regroup. But this is I think a really thoughtful starting place, and we can adjust as necessary with experience.
Thank you, Heidi.
I think lots of this looks really great. I do like the added flexibility too. I had a question around, I guess the way it reads right now to me is that most of this money would be, I guess, spent in grant form. It's just completely open and doesn't say anything about any money that might be returning to the program. And are we just assuming that this first round of funding is going to all just be grants and no low interest loans?
Emily, can you speak to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not necessarily expecting that or anticipating that, Heidi. We are using the bonus again in this round to incent hopefully loans, but we won't have money coming back until the next round or the next year if we do loans, likely, or we would put it in the next allocation year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, because it would take a while for anyone to A, start the project, and then B, get to a point where they'd be paying things back.
Right. So we would likely address those pieces of what we would do, but we would likely just treat it as like new revenue that we won't count admin toward, but we would just make it available again for refunding or reawarding. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. I guess we don't know what will come until it comes, so.
Yeah. And can I add one more thing? We are doing a pre-application this round. So we'll have the opportunity to work with applicants to say, I actually think this could be a really competitive loan. Or I don't know that it would score high enough as a grant, which was something that we ran into in the innovation round with one of the private developers. It was unclear why they needed a grant rather than taking a loan. And so that'll be an opportunity for us to have some of that open dialogue. So I hope that there will be opportunities to encourage applications for loans in that way too.
That makes sense. And I just have one more question, just because I missed the meeting last month. I was wondering, the trust fund reserve portion, was there and I haven't watched the meeting yet, was there a reason that specific number was selected? Like, is it a percentage of the total? I'm sure you have an answer, because you always do.
Yes. So last meeting, can I answer this too, Katie?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So last meeting, I proposed a new policy around the reserve balance, partly in just thinking about what's realistic for doing competitive award cycles. And I know I heard a priority from this committee to have a responsiveness to emergent projects and emergency projects and all those things. And so this was kind of the solution I came up with and proposed. And then it got some great refinement in the meeting last month. But essentially, we proposed that a maximum of 20% of the available balance in that year can be directed toward the reserve. And that was what the committee moved forward with. But so that's where we got those numbers. We did a calculation of the balance.
I have one more question, but I can wait till Christine goes.
It's okay, Heidi. I'm not in a hurry. It's okay. Keep going.
So my second question is around the having the second round of funding, the independent affordable housing trust fund round. And just having worked on housing projects where we've had to fund, stack all these funding sources, is say that the affordable housing trust fund round is like the first bit of money that's secured, and it's going to, whoops, my battery's running low, and it's going to match, it's going to be used as a match, for example, on the next round of like federal funding on a state level. Like, is it going to be flexible enough for someone to be able to hold the funding without actually breaking ground until the other funding sources are secured?
Can I answer this one too? I had a feeling it would be me, but so I think the probably frustrating answer of that is that it's probably situational to the project. I think if it's like we're gonna wait 2 years, right? That might be something that the scoring committee will examine around. Is this the right time for them to apply and to receive funding? Or if it's like a very clear timeline of in the next 6 months we're applying, and so we're going to do groundwork to get the full project ready for the next application round. And I know that stacks like that have to happen. So I think that it honestly will really depend on where the project is. And but it's not a disqualifier if they're not fully committed, if they don't have everything committed.
Yeah, no, that's probably the best answer. So thank you, Emily.
Great. Christine?
Yeah, I think I'm going to follow up Emily a little bit on updating contingencies. And earlier, again, you spoke to after an application round going into play, that we can make changes and strengthen and learn from their feedback. And then hearing John reflect on, we're not going to know what we are, what the wild card is going to be until it's there. Is there any reason we wouldn't leave ourselves in a position to change our contingencies after each application round versus an entire year? And I'm just wondering what's guiding that decision.
I guess, Emily, I thought I kind of remember us talking about like we could update these after each funding round, but was that what?
I don't recall that, but I think it's a good question. I think what's guiding it is initial planning. So I think if there is a recommendation to do something different, we can. I think that it's helpful and important for the community to know what to expect, kind of to Heidi's point about the timing of when they apply. And I think Lori kind of raised that last time too. So I would not likely recommend changing a lot of your priorities mid-year, but I could see you changing the contingencies if something didn't work in that round. And that could be something that we could share about the scoring committee's feedback about not being sure how to operate that or operationalize that or whatever. So I think it's open. We don't have a set policy on it. I just sort of assumed we would do it annually with the plan, but.
And I think that's what I remembered is that we had talked about changing how the contingencies would be, but not allocation changing.
Okay.
But Christine, were you asking about the contingencies or the allocation?
The contingencies.
Oh, okay.
And just feeling like, and I don't want to overthink it. And I most certainly don't want to put us in this wheel of constant change. But at the same time, we're just coming out of the starting gate. So I'm guessing we're going to learn things that we haven't thought of, that pieces are going to come to the table and questions or situations are going to come to the table that we just haven't thought of. So it's just what's spinning in the back of my mind.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments or concerns about the contingencies or Emily?
Yeah, thank you, Christine. I'm looking at the appropriate place to put that. And since this isn't necessarily a policy manual, I'm going to put it in the policy manual. And then I'll bring it to you in January. And I also have to update the reserve balance policy. So I'm going to be asking you to review and accept or consider some changes anyway.
Okay. Any other comments? So then do we want to go back and look at the allocation portion of these? If we're kind of set on the contingencies. Any comments on or questions on the allocation plan? Emily, do you feel like there's any more explanation that needs on any of it?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think to me, from the discussion last month, I feel pretty clear. I guess I would just ask if there are people who didn't get to voice their questions last month or weren't here, if they have any questions about this. How did I know?
Just because I wasn't here. So I guess my question is about next year's funding. I guess are we assuming that this is an allocation plan that is somewhat repeatable into the future? I feel like we've gotten pretty lucky over the past year and a half to add some pretty significant funding to the trust fund that is one-time funding. And I guess my biggest worry is having this really amazing first year and then not being able to repeat it. And I guess I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. Like, it'd be great if we could do this again next year and have $3 million available for, projects. Yeah. What's your feedback?
I'm guessing Emily or John would probably have more thoughts about next year.
Yeah, so Heidi, I think I can suggest that provided we're able to do some of the transactional stuff we're intending to do with city-owned land, and whether that's at Scott Street or Sleepy Inn, I think we can anticipate similar or better numbers in the trust fund next year. Lots of caveats to that, but I think at the pace we're moving, some of those transactions would likely transpire within the next fiscal year.
Does that answer that, Heidi?
Yeah, I think so. I just know it takes a really long time in many cases to actually get a project shovel ready. And I think, it would be nice for the community to, know it's somewhat predictable and that this allocation plan, so if you're like doing your research and looking at this year's allocation plan, you can have somewhat of a, you know, guide towards what next year might look like, at least on some broad scale. But yeah, that's great feedback.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, you know, I suffer from optimism, but I think I think that's not, I don't think it would be unreasonable at all for us to assume that similar resources or maybe even a bit more dough might be available.
Emily?
Oh no, I also suffer from optimism. Actually, I don't think it's a suffering though. But I don't necessarily know what's in the future for next year, but I can say that we're really hitting the ground running on our planning around multiple strategies for the capitalization fund, and really trying to get that off the ground, which will help us meet our 5-year goal of the $10 million corpus. And I know, Heidi, you and I've talked before about having to kind of do 2 strategies simultaneously, because one of the things that brings money in is proof points. And so I think of these first few years as great proof points for the community to show what we can achieve with a dedicated investment of local funds, and also to show funders and investors and other spaces where we might be able to bring partnership. And so we are, you know, recommending that we spend what's available and then hope to be able to replenish that. And then when we reach the corpus of $10 million, then the plan would be that we would award around $3 million each year, so that we have time to let loans and things like that catch up, and new investments bring us back to that. So it is a space where sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh no. But I also think that we've been really fortunate to have such broad support from council and from Mayor Engen, and to really see prioritizing us and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in these first few years. So I don't know that, you know, we can always guarantee that, but I think it would definitely be well allocated if it is. So I think that's just sort of the tangly spot we're in, but hope to be able to do something similar. And then I think it's also challenging for the community to necessarily rely on the allocation plan from previous years, because, you know, it is informed from the landscape assessments, informed from other spaces, and something could drastically change in the allocation plan. And so I think that that's just an important comment about your roles in thinking about community need. And, you know, I feel that something that was absolutely missing from the landscape assessment this year was qualitative data. And I think that if we have a more robust balance of qualitative and quantitative data next year, you may have different priorities, right? And so I just want to name that too.
Thank you. Jerry?
Sorry, I was just thinking about the donation we got from Dory for the $1,000. Does that count under the number 5 contingency, like revenue, or where does that money go into the funding? Is that under new or preservation or split?
Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that addressed in the contingencies? Which could you flip back to that one? Was it number
5?
Number 5. Yeah, revenue attained after the allocation plan should be directed to the new construction budget and reported by the staff at the next committee meeting.
And so that's considered revenue then, since it's a donation?
Mm-hmm. So it's income coming in after the allocation plan. And that would be really any, Emily, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's any revenue that comes in after the allocation plan. So it could be a donation, or it could be some other unknown
loan come back.
Yeah, or if we were to receive a grant or something like that. And that will also help us write grants if we know where the money would be directed.
Does that answer it, Sherry? Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I was thinking that's what it was going to go to, but I just wanted to make sure that it was.
Okay. So any other comments about the contingencies or the allocation? Emily, is there anything else you want to follow up with on?
It sounds like the language around priorities and the rationales work then.
Yeah.
So, okay. The last kind of edit I'll do is I'll cite those data sources. I just didn't know if they were going to change, so I preserved my time. But I'll do that for the final version. And that's all I have for the allocation plan, at least for discussion, unless there's anything else.
And so the allocate, we'll vote on it in January, is that correct? No,
Nope.
we're doing tonight? Okay. Great. Was there, did you have a motion on the thing? Okay. Oh, can we quick go back to the timeline? Sorry.
Yeah.
So did anybody else have any questions about the timeline or when the funding was going to go out? Okay, I think I just love timelines. We can go for it.
We're going to post the unified application docs in, I think, the third week of December. Is that next week?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're posting them next week. And then we'll have a workshop on January 10th for prospective applicants. And then we'll have a pre-application that'll be open during that time. And then the final applications will be due on February 22nd. And I can share more of that in writing as we get closer to, but we'll have it open. And just a reminder that this will include the home and community development block grant investments as well. And both of the grant makers on that team reviewed the allocation plan for alignment with their funds so that applicants can apply for one or even all three funding sources if it aligns, and it looked okay to them too. So.
Great. Thank you. All right, then moving on to the motion. So is there somebody who would like to make the motion for the committee? Christine?
I move to recommend the program year 2022 annual allocation plan to Mayor Engen for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second? Jerry?
I will second the recommendation to move it forward.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on it? Okay, seeing no further discussion or comments. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Great. Done in record time with that one. Okay, so moving on to committee member comments. Is there any? Is that the next?
Thank you for giving me the recommendation.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Emily, for doing all the hard work and typing it up.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, so moving on in the agenda, committee member comments. I think I just had the comment that it would be nice to have Jeff Smith from WGM come and talk about Larchmont and maybe give his presentation. Great. And I know there will be another housing report coming out at the end of January, February that might be good to look at too. But if anybody else has suggestions for meeting topics or additional information that would be helpful to the committee.
So Katie, I don't I don't know if the committee would be interested, but our project on Scott Street is interesting, and it's kind of this work writ large, and a program that we hope to be a model for future partnerships and development. And I'm sure staff would be happy to provide kind of an overview of what's cooking there.
That would be great. And then Christine.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier and maybe out of line as far as committee member comments, but in thinking about us meeting over the next six months and knowing that we're a new committee, I really look forward to any continued learning opportunities, like listening to Jeff Smith or learning more about the Scott Street project or whatever that might be that makes the committee stronger and more informed.
Great. Does anybody else have any other suggestions for learning opportunities? Okay, moving on to any staff comments. Oh, Emily, go ahead.
I guess that's me for right now. But I guess, yes, I want to share that Zoe Walters received a new role in community planning, development, and innovation, and she is now an assistant planner. So she's not going to be joining us anymore. But I did just want to take a moment to thank her. Zoe really stepped into a role that is not always asked of or like expected of admins, to really partner with me to create this committee, to think about how we approach learning and make it accessible and make it equitable. And I just really appreciate Zoe's partnership over the last year and a few months, especially as I was a team of one with great support from leadership, but not always having, someone to just bounce ideas. And so it was a really excellent partner in that. So I just wanted to name that. I'm really excited for her new role, and she's often behind the scenes of this work. So I just wanted to appreciate her. And we're really lucky that Soraya has stepped in to support us in the interim while they're hiring someone to take the role that Zoe has left. So I just want to name that. And Soraya, thanks so much for adding another late committee meeting to your schedule and plate. We really appreciate you and are excited to work together. And then I just wanted to add one more comment, if that's okay, that Riley, Katie, and Aubrey and I are setting up one-on-ones with each member to learn a little bit more about what you're hoping to achieve in the committee and all those spaces. So we reached out to 4 members for December, and then we'll reach out for the remaining members in January and February. So I'm really appreciative of making that time too. So thanks, Katie and Riley, for doing that.
Thank you for setting those up. We really appreciate all the work on that. Okay, anything else from any other staff members? I'll just say, Ricky, welcome back. Okay, so the announcements of the next meeting are going to be January 12th from 6 to 8. Agenda items ahead for January and the future. We kind of covered some great topics, and I can send you Jeff Smith's email, Emily. Yeah, so if there's nothing else, we can go ahead and adjourn. That was a really fast meeting. Does anybody have anything else before we adjourn?
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
Looks
And
like.
thank
Thank
you all for being here midweek in December. It's not the easiest time of the year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
I'll move to adjourn.
Oh, thank you, Sherry.
Yes. Thank you, Jerry. All right, then we will adjourn. Thanks.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.